You know, it could just be anybody who gets up and tells a story at this part of the show. We have an open mic that we do second and fourth Mondays. So next Monday, you'll join me at the Delancey, where I do this 8 o'clock, totally free, and you can tell your story. I'll have a guest storyteller who's awesome, Kelly Dunham, who's amazing. I'll tell a story. It won't be as good as hers, but it'll be good, you know, good enough. And our next storyteller, as it turns out, is somebody I've known for like 20 years almost by this point. He's a photographer who's been documenting the underground sex and BDSM scene in New York since the 70s?
Late 70s.
Late 70s. His work is amazing. I was a curator at one point and put it up at the Museum of Sex. When I was looking around for pictures of what was going on with sex in New York, he was somebody that everybody sent me to over and again. Let's see if he's a good storyteller. Jefferson Gonzalez.
Thank you. My name is Ethan John Gonzalez, and I am a photographer, and I've been hanging out in a lot of dark corners, dark rooms, dark places. Does anyone here remember the meatpacking district from the last century, before 1990, outside of you? Hang out in the clubs or remember?
Hellfire.
Pardon?
Hellfire.
Hellfire, yes.
Yeah.
There was a time in this city when that particular part of the city, the meatpacking district, was home to a large number of underground kink and sex clubs. You had Jay's, which is a male jerk-off place. You had the Locker Room, which was an even sleazier male jerk-off place. You had the Lure, which was a gay bar. You had the Mine Shaft, which is a very famous gay sex club. It closed in '86, but it lives forever in the memory. There was a Hellfire Club, and on 10th Avenue and 13th was the Vault, which was basically an old refrigeration building that was converted to 4 levels of kink. 5 if you include the basement. Now, I first discovered the meatpacking district, the clubs there. I was attending a meeting for the Eulenspiegel Society, and they said, well, we're having a meeting at a place called the Hellfire. And I went to 28 9th Avenue, and we go down into this basement, and it was in this underground vault, underneath the street. And they had the meeting, and they said, well, you can stay afterwards, and the club is open. And I'm wandering around, and there are people walking around naked. And there are people walking around naked, spanking other people who are naked. And since then, I've been going to that neighborhood almost every weekend for years. I used to hang out at the Hellfire. I'd go to parties at the Vault. I'd, pay the money to go into Jay's and get jerked off, get a blowjob or whatever. And this was a glorious time when you could pick out whatever fetish you want, find a little club that served it. And I remember going to the Hellfire Club, and it was just an incredible little place to find every kind of kink that your heart truly desired. And I remember meeting there one time this beautiful 6'2" black transsexual. And we had something in common. We both had our nipples pierced. And she got off, in fact, I shared a fetish with her, nipple piercings. And we began talking, and getting excited, and we began talking and getting more excited. And before you knew it, we're on the floor fucking in the Hellfire Club. Now, I know, you probably think it's disgusting to sit there and fuck on the floor, but we were very safe about it. We covered the floor with cardboard before we fucked on it. So yes, and that's the way it was back in the early days, before '86, when the city began to get mean and shut down the club. You had all these little back rooms in the back with glory holes. And people would go in there and you could have sex, you could do this, you could do that. Or sometimes, you would have these couples who do something really kinky. They would go into these rooms, these little, small rooms with no doors on them, just a little chain to keep out the unwanted. And they would sit there and talk. And they would just be sitting there talking, and everyone's gathered around saying, oh yeah, they're going to get it on now. And people would be climbing the walls to look down and see, oh yeah, any minute now, they're going to do it. And they're going yeah, I got that ring over at Tiffany's, this is really nice. And they're just chatting and having a good conversation in this nice private space without anyone interfering. Sometimes, to spice up the life a little bit, Lenny Waller, who ran the place, would bring out this big leather belt and they'd like whack the wall and start screaming. People get all excited and everything. And Annie Sprinkle, the porn star, would come by the club once in a while and do her speciality on somebody on the floor. And I remember one particular gentleman was on the bar getting fisted. And I absolutely know that happened because I remember what happened after they pulled the arm out and it's like, oh dude, it's over. It's like, dude, come on. So, but it was a glorious time. It was, you know, this is when the clubs were wide open. Then the city decided in '86 to get mean. But the people at Hellfire were smart. They shut themselves down and renovated the place. They got rid of the glory holes, they got rid of the back rooms, and they reopened, and the city couldn't touch them. And they remained open until a terrible thing happened. It's called market forces. Money came in and basically bought the entire meatpacking district in 1999. The owner of a lot of the land passed away and his family went ka-ching, and they sold all these bits and pieces of property. And that's when you began seeing boutiques and stores with fresh paint. I remember going down 14th Street and looking like, what the fuck? Fresh paint! What's going on here? You know, I was shocked, genuinely shocked. It's fresh paint, oh my God. And at night, 14th Street and the West Side Highway was wide open to all the transsexual hookers. We'd go there at night, and all these women would be walking up and down the streets, just doing, you know, whatever it takes to get business. So it was just a wild and crazy time, a wild and crazy sex district. It was like, you could walk up and down the street and, you know, half naked, no one would care. You'd be walking in the park and you'd see these two gay guys, 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun's coming up, and they're in the park having sex. And that's the way it was until